live on beans and rice and $10,000 a year while you like invest all your money. I think that's foolish. Business is not like, there's no rule book for business. That's what's so cool about it. You make your own rules. And so I said, I'm gonna have my business built around my life, not my life built around my business.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
So yeah, thank you so much to join us on another episode of the Gentle Art of Crushing It. Today I have Brian Luebben, and so super excited for you to join us today, Brian. Please just start us off by telling us, a bit about your background, where and how you found success as you define it, and maybe, if you want to throw something in there about, that's something that other people wouldn't know about you.
All right, so background, how do I define success, and a fun fact?
Yes, thank you.
Got it. So what's up, everyone? My name is Brian. I'm going to be hanging out with you guys for the next 30 minutes. So I'm going to make sure to earn every single minute of it. So I'm a professional podcaster at this point, which is super crazy because I started in corporate America, probably similar to a lot of you guys that are listening to this, guys and gals. I graduated college, went to a corporate B2B sales role, made it to the top of the company through a lot of hard work, sweat, perseverance, and 80-hour weeks and politics, right? Made it to the top, won sales rep of the year, rookie of the year, diamond level, top of the company, out of the entire country. So that was super cool. I got everything I ever wanted, realized that none of it mattered. I looked at my boss's boss as they were grooming me for promotions, and I realized, don't want to be you. If that's me in 5 years, what am I here for? So that started me buying a good bit of properties. So I was just buying a house a year, very non-sexy, traditional house hack co-living strategy. Was able to do that, start up a podcast, which actually accidentally became my life's passion, and built a business around that. In between the revenue from my podcast and the cash flow from my real estate, I was able to leave that corporate job, making $250,000 a year. So it wasn't like a $40,000 a year, it was $250,000 a year job in March of 2022, hopped on a one-way flight and traveled full-time around the world for 8 months and launched my new business, which is what I run today, which is the Action Academy, which helps people become go from employee to entrepreneur. And you need a lot of hand-holding through that process, and I did it. And so now I help other people do it. And it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. So there's my background. What I define success by is being fully present and content in the moment. So having a day where you can say, man, there's no other way that I would prefer this day to be besides what it is today, right here, right now. Because you can't really define success by, what you want, because what you want is arbitrary. And the root of human suffering comes from like pulling a random idea of how things should be out of our, tail and comparing them to how reality is. And there's a discrepancy there. And so we have this like preconceived notion of how things are supposed to be. And when they're not that way, then we become upset and we find ourselves not feeling successful. So for me, it's just to be, if I'm at peace every single day with how the day is unfolding, that's success to me. And then fun fact, started my first company out of college. It was a DJ company. I had 4 people working for me. And that's how I used that company to pay for my school. So I graduated debt free. There you go.
That's awesome. And there's a lot to unpack there. And, to the listeners, Brian is, if you have not heard of the Action Academy, start by checking out the podcast. It's huge. He has amazing guests on it all the time. And then follow up from there. But he has, a backbone, which is sort of a community mastermind. And it is really amazing. And so Brian's actually a role model of mine. And so I'm super just, over the moon that you're joining us today. I wanted to throw this question at you just for fun. What would you say is, one of your favorite successes that you either solely created or were a part of?
The community. Because candidly with the podcast, so for people listening, what I did in my idea was I was like, let me lead with as much free value as possible. And then the more that I can give for free, the bigger my ask can be in the future. So I started this podcast and just did 5 episodes a week every single day for free for a year, over a little bit over a year. And that was there's no expectation, no ask, no advertising. I just gave. And then what I did from there was then I decided while I was traveling, I needed to find purpose because I had become quote unquote, air quotes in the air, financially free. And I no longer had a job and I needed to do something because everyone thinks that they need to, that when they everyone's got this idea where they're like, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna travel the world and that's what I'm gonna do full time, and super fun for 2 weeks. I did it for 8 months, so it's not the answer. I can tell you that from experience because I've lived your daydream. I've done it. And so while I was doing that, I had an idea that was like, I need to go from me to we, and then get outside of myself. I'm like, okay, cool. I did something like pretty interesting. It's like, how can I help other people do this? And then, so for me, a recent win has just been watching people succeed within the group, because then from the podcast, I started launching like coaching calls, and I had like 600 people sign up. And I realized that I hated coaching. It was terrible for me. It was taking up my entire week. And then I created a course. Then I realized I hated a course. And then it eventually matured and became the community that it is today. And so it's been so much fun watching other people win and succeed and like thrive. It's been like the greatest source of fulfillment that I've had. So that.
I love that, man, and I know that you're sincere about that, because out of the handful or more of conversations that I've had with you, a lot of times you're giving me advice that is helpful for me, and you always follow that up with love, and you've shared that exact sort of sentiment that you love seeing people grow in the community. I am a proud member of the Action Academy, and I wanted to say that. As I was going through the content in your course, I didn't know what to expect, but honestly, there is a lot of gold in there, and it's definitely interesting for someone who is younger, such as yourself. I think you're about 28. Does that sound right?
Yep, 28.
To have this much, sort of wisdom. I know that you've worked really hard. You spent a lot of money on coaching and self development, and so that's huge. What would you say is would you mind sharing with us one of the more incredibly difficult experiences that you've had to walk through, and what you learned from that?
Absolutely. So the course he's talking about is now our free onboarding. So it was funny because I charged $1,500 for that course. How it all started, and this matters for you guys listening, because how I did it is more important than what I did. So listen to what I say and the end result, but pay more close attention to how I did it, because this is the same process that you can mimic if you're launching an offer, if you're launching your core business. So when you're launching a business, you don't want to just work in silence and then just launch something into the void and expect and hope that people are going to be interested. What you do is you start with interviews. So you need to go find your target customer, and you need to go ask them what they want, what their problems are. So that's what I did. I said, I'm going to do free coaching calls from the Action Academy. I had 600 people sign up, and I did 100 of them. For 20 minutes, no offer, no nothing. Just hop on with me 15, 20 minutes. I'll try to help in any way. And I just would take notes. What are you running into? What are your problems? And so after 100 of those, I said, okay, I've got enough material here from the market to create the course. So then I took all the core problems that were recurring, and then I created the course, which is what's called an MVP, a minimum viable product. So I made a 52-hour course, charged $1,500 for it, emailed the 100 people that I coached for free, and made $100,000 in 48 hours. So that was pretty cool. And I did it all through Venmo and Cash App. I had no LLC, no bank account, no nothing, no website, no landing page, no marketing funnel, no sales, no nothing.
Just building the parachute on the way down.
Yeah, just building everything on the way down. And then so after that, we created the community, and I said, okay, well, screw this course. I'm just going to give it away for free to the community. So that's what Doug's talking about. So when you join, that's the course in its entirety is the 30-day onboard now. So it's funny how that works. But yeah, it's about a difficult situation. When I left my job, had a panic attack a week. It was pretty crazy average. And I hadn't had panic attacks before. And you feel like you're about to have a heart attack. So it was really, really scary. And that's why I told people, I'm like, look, and that was with $20,000 to $25,000 a month coming in cash flow from my real estate, my business. I had $80,000 in cash in the bank. And I had two properties that I was living in for free. I had like four rental units, so I had cash flow and I had a place to live for free, and I had everything done right the right way on paper. And I still was having these panic attacks. Like, what am I doing? What did I just give up? Like, are you serious? Like, am I an idiot? Having all these doubts. And I tell everyone in the community, cash flow gets you out of your job. Community keeps you out. Period. Because if I hadn't had my guys at Go Abundance, which is the mastermind that I'm in, if I hadn't have had those guys around me saying, hey, I left my job 10 years ago, you're going to be fine, I wouldn't have been able to make it through. So when I was having that panic attack, I was able to call them and say, yo, like, what am I doing? And they're like, you're about to go on a crazy ride for a year, and then you're going to have it all figured out. And you're going to look back and say it was the best thing you ever did. And now I'm over a year out, and I can say it was the best thing I ever did, as we have this new business that's going to hit like 1.3 million this year, which is 4 to 5 times more than I made in my corporate job, working 80 hours a week. So it works.
Yeah, I love that. And you're building your own dream as opposed to somebody else's, right?
And I just did it spending and now it's 2023. We're recording this in August, and I just spent the last month and a half in Europe again. So it's repeatable. And I didn't do that with credit card debt, paid it off in cash. And now moving forward, next year, I'm like, Austin, Texas is hot. So every July and August, I'm going to travel moving forward. So I'm going to spend every July in Europe, and then August somewhere in the mountains in the US moving forward, and then still pay for my apartment here. So it's like I built the dream life that I always wanted now as I'm building and scaling my business. So that's another like false thing that they say on the internet, is that you have to like eat shit for 10 years when you're building a business and like live on beans and rice and $10,000 a year while you like invest all your money. I think that's foolish. Like, business is not like, there's no rule book for business. That's what's so cool about it. You make your own rules. And so I said, this is what I want my life to be. And I'm going to have my business built around my life, not my life built around my business. So that's what I try to help other people do.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's another one of those gold nuggets that, like, literally, Brian, you are always dropping. So it's incredibly important for everybody listening to listen to his podcast, follow him, because everywhere you're at, like your social media, everything, you're dropping like value bombs 24/7. And so, yeah, let me just kind of shift the conversation a little bit and ask you, if you were to go back in time to age 18, how would you, what would you do differently, if anything, to fast track your success? If you could bring your current mindset with you.
Current mindset to me at 18, I would have just learned how to find deals in like Hustle and Bird Dog, and I would have jumped into multifamily or commercial real estate faster. So I would have worked for a commercial real estate broker, or I would have worked for a big multifamily investor and immediately just been like, yo, like, I've got nothing to do. Like, I'll just help you for free. And I would have just gone after the dudes doing big deals so I can become used to that immediately and then grow up in that world. And then to where now, like, I would probably have like a $20 million portfolio of commercial and multifamily if I had done that. But that's what that's what I would do. If you don't have money, like, cool. Like, there's only two things you can focus on if you don't have money, and that's either increasing your income producing skill sets or increasing your skill sets that you can use to provide value to people that have money. That's it. So if you don't have money, you can either learn how to make more money or provide value to people that have money, whichever one you feel is easier or more inclined to do. That's it. It's just two options. So people overcomplicate it. That's it. That's all you can do. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, might as well keep it simple too. And I think you touched on something that is like incredibly important, and that is acclimating sort of our mindset. So like proximity to people who are doing big deals, right? That would have, you would have benefited from that like hugely as well. So that's great advice. Let me ask you this. If there was a key that unlocked, a success mindset or an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, what would you say, that you discovered this key? What would you say that is?
Proximity. That's it. And it's not even anything people like necessarily say or do. It just is you noticing what reality actually is. So people say, I want to like realistic or reasonable, and those words don't exist. They don't exist. And so I'm talking on people like for intro calls. I do intro calls for the community. People will do like 15-minute calls for me, and I'll just coach them for free and tell them if it's a fit or not. And a lot of them are just like, well, I'm like, what are your goals? Like, if you could wave a magic wand, if they're like, well, realistically, I'd want $5,000 a month in passive income, and so I could leave my job in like 5 years. I'm like, dude, that's like one Airbnb. You know, I'm like, that's like one laundromat or like one car wash. Like that's your SDE. That's your seller discretionary earnings. Like you could take that home in the pocket with like one purchase, one acquisition. And what's crazy is, on the flip side of the coin, these people are like getting so caught up, and there's probably people listening to this that are like sitting on $60,000 to $80,000 in cash, and they're looking to buy that condo, that house, that first investment, and they're like so stressed. They've been waiting for a year, and people are outbidding them in cash, and they can't get the property. And then I'm like, okay, you've been doing this for a year, or like, how long did it take for you to save up the cash? Like 2 years, and now we're still waiting for the market to correct for you to like get in with these interest rates. I'm like, best case scenario, that house is going to print you out like $200 to $400 a month. Like you make $200,000 a year. You need 100 of those houses for you to be set. So like you're focusing on the complete wrong strategy. And so it's just like you have to have that complete mindset shift to like go into that. And so like for me, being around people, like proximity is power. Like when you're around people that are doing those deals, you realize what's actually possible, right? And so like for me in Action Academy, I'm like, okay, cool, $50,000, $80,000 months, is like a struggle. And then I meet this guy, and then he's on his podcast talking about, oh yeah, and then I was at 400,000 a month, and I just pulled this one lever, and that took us up to 800. And then with the same offer, with the same team, we went up to 1.2 million a month, and then we were at like 12 million a year, and then we're struggling around 2 million a month. And I was just like, okay, I can do that. Like I could do that. And so I'm like, I'm thinking too small. And then you go on a podcast, and I'm talking about like impacting 1 million people and helping them leave corporate jobs in the next 3 years, which is an awesome goal. But I get a podcast with this woman that owns a private island next to Richard Branson. And she's like, yeah, we saved 8,000 kids from human trafficking this year. Like they flew in helicopters with like machine guns and sniper rifles and special forces, kicked down doors in like third world countries, face to face with these dudes, and like rescued kids. And then they used their real estate and their capital to fund those missions. I was just like, cool. So proximity.
Proximity is huge. I think I would say, I don't know if I would use the word master, but you're a master of getting into sort of inner circles of very, high level investors, high level masterminds. So like there's a story that you shared, and I almost think it was, how you got to meet David Osborne or something like that, how you got into like a GoBundance. And but this is like one example. You do this over and over and over because one of the insane things about your podcast is the high level rock stars that you get as guests on your podcast. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that, how you do that, so our audience can learn from it a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to lead with value. So value looks different as you progress. So like for me right now, it's very easy to provide value to people because I have distribution. So, if you don't have a social media presence, like build one, because like that attention is the new oil. And so I can go to the Pinedas of the world, the Brandon Turners of the world that I'm friends with, and now I'm going to fly out to Vegas to go golf with Pineda, which is super cool. But, it's, now I can offer distribution because I built it. So I've got like, okay, if you want like 400,000 eyeballs on you and for your business, for your brand, for everything, like hop on the podcast. It's a very easy decision now, right? But it wasn't always. So you're talking about way back in the day in 2019 when I was broke and I was living in the basement of my house hack. And I heard this guy on a podcast named David Osborne that was worth over $100 million. He lived in Austin, Texas. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. I was working my corporate job. I hadn't yet hit that, peak sales rep status yet. I was still on the grind, still climbing that mountain. And but I was starting to invest in real estate, and I heard David on a podcast. I was like, I got to get in touch with this guy. I got to get in. Something just told me to do it. And when something tells you, like when you get that feeling of something you're supposed to do, I call it a download, whether you're religious or if you're not, if you believe in God or it's just the universe or whatever. I think it's interchangeable. But I got this download, and whenever I get these downloads, I'm really good at taking action on them. And so I got this download randomly that says, you need to email that guy. You should email him. I was like, I should email him. And so I was an outbound sales rep, so I'm good at getting people's attention. So I couldn't find his email, so I went on his website and I booked him to speak for 15,000 people in Atlanta, Georgia for an event that was made up. And in the paragraph, I said, "Hey, I don't have an event, but I figured somebody important would like read this email." And I said, "I'm Brian. I know everything that you do. I've read all your books. I know every single thing. Like, I'll do anything you hate doing for free. Like, just tell me what you hate doing for free, and I'll just do it." And so they replied, and I booked a call with his assistant, Matt King, who's now the CEO of GoBundance. And he invited me. It was a Tuesday. They invited me out to their mastermind event for GoBundance on Thursday in Breckenridge, Colorado, and it was going to be 3,500 plus airfare, plus hotel, plus rental car. So it was like $5,200. I didn't have $5,200, so I put it on a credit card. And first, I called my mom, called my family, talked to my girlfriend at the time. I said, "Should I do this?" And they're like, "No, this is the stupidest thing we've ever heard. It's a complete scam. They're going to steal your money." And I just said, "I'm going to do it anyways." And so I did it. And yeah, so I flew out there, and they didn't believe I would do it. So they rewarded me with giving me like a tea time with David. They're like, "You know what? That was pretty badass. Like, here, we're going to have you golf. Like, congrats, you're golfing with David Osborne." And so that's when I met him. And then I just kept that same energy for the next 4 years. Same thing. I would just do the same thing over and over and over again. I wouldn't stop showing up. I wouldn't stop providing value. I wouldn't stop leading and with a giving heart and just like giving with no expectation, no ask. So here we are 4 years later in 2023. And now I've got a book that's going to come out in probably December, early December. And now I'm going to call every single favor I've acquired over the last 4 years. So it's been 4 years where I was like, one day I'm going to have an ask, and I want to make that ask big enough. And so Hormozy just did it with his book launch, and in no way, shape, or form am I comparing myself to him, because he is like the superstar, and I'm just like watching with sunglasses, right? And but same principle. So now I'm going to call in all those favors for the last 4 years, and I'm going to say, "Hey, I need help now. It's time to launch this book." And then that's when we're going to make magic happen.
Hello, this is Doug. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you're enjoying it. And the reason for this quick interruption here is, if you are interested in learning more, sort of the insider scoop of the Action Academy, like I said in the episode, I am a member, then feel free to shoot me an email at thedouglasbryanclark@gmail. Again, that is thedouglasbryanclark@gmail. Thank you so much. Have a great day. That's awesome that you just shared about your book, because I've felt that for a little while now, that you've got to have a book come out, because your story is very unique, and your strategy that you've been able to pull off, like you've said earlier, is repeatable. And that's one of the cool things about being a part of the Action Academy and messaging back and forth and going through your course is you will say, "Hey, look, if you want to just copy my business, this is how you do it right here." And you give like exact steps where we can
just
see.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, just wait. Dude, so the book is the course on steroids. So like not only is it the course, it's not only everything that's in the course. So for people listening, it walks you through. So like the first section is all about like the foundations. So it's like how to create a vivid vision, how to set your goals the correct way. Like I've got 30 case studies of goal setting, because people in the community are still confused about setting goals. So it's like, so I got all these different case studies for goals, setting your vision, how to attract peers, partners, mentors. I've got email templates. I've got like the literal screenshot of the email I sent to David, how to attract friends, how to build a social media following, how to buy real estate, how to buy businesses. Like there's like 8,000 words on the entire step-by-step process of acquiring a business, of acquiring real estate. And then I wrote like 10,000 words on the process of building your own business and starting your side hustle and building the economic models and how to hire and how to create your org chart and how to go step by step in creating a marketing funnel and a sales funnel. So it's like by the end of the book, it's like not only do you know how to like set your vision, but you know how to buy businesses, you know how to buy real estate, and you have an entire step by step like roadmap to $0 to $1 million for your own business. And then at the end, we talk about contribution. So it's like super cool. So I'm really, really, really excited for that. It took me a long time to write. And now we're through with the 9th edit of it right now. So I edited it 9 times, and I just spent, I think, about $10,000 for like the 5th round of professional editing. So it'll be good.
Yeah, no, for sure. And would you say that, creating your course, helped you put that book together because you had already put some of the, legwork, into it already, right?
100%. Oh yeah, because here's the thing. So to like rewind the conversation back to what we started from. Okay, like where does everything originate from? From the customer, from the end result, from the end person. It's not me making any assumptions of what people want to know, what people are needing. It's not assumptions. It's like I know because I was like, A, I was that person. B, I've interviewed those people. C, I talked to hundreds of those people on intro calls. And D, I make content about all these problems and I can watch and see which videos get millions of views. And I'm like, okay, that's a validation. So people need to learn about this. People want more of this. So now this book is going to be such a low cost. So you're talking about going from $1,500 course to now it's going to be like a $10 book. So there we go. Right. And then that leads them into, because I think information should be as close to free as possible. So like, I don't sell information products. Like I'm not a guru. I'm a part of Action Academy. I add some value to it. But like, as you know, as like a person that's in it, it's like, I'm a fraction of it. Most of the people in the group are smarter than me, which is by design. That's by design.
Yeah, and no, absolutely. There's a lot of people, super heavy hitters in that group that, it's almost like seems impossible to meet all of them because there's so many in there, right? So I agree. There's a lot of people adding value. Two questions on your book. Do you have a name for it? And one, can I get the first signed copy? You gotta give the signed copy to your mom or something. I hear you.
Signed copy is good. I can't give the title away because I'm gonna hold that to the chest until we get closer. It'll launch around December, so I'll probably start doing more like PR come like November-ish, where I'll launch all of that. But I will tell you that it's going to give you the step-by-step roadmap to creating passionate income, which is income that you are fired up by. So if that's unfamiliar, if that concept is unfamiliar to you, that's my one. Like Brandon Turner did the Burr method. I'm like, passionate income is mine. And if you can
and
think
that's
of someone,
so important. Sorry to cut you off, but like we have one life. It's so important to figure that out.
Yeah, and if you could think of someone that personifies it, so you can really like cement the idea, Steve Irwin. So Steve Irwin like worked for the Australia Zoo, right? And he would do it for free, basically. And then he created this show and he created this celebrity status just by being him and by living in his passion of like wildlife and conservation and, just like teaching people about animals and wilderness. And so he was making millions and millions and millions of dollars before he died. And he was just like, I want all your money. Give me all your money so I can put it all back into conservation and to the zoo and to wildlife. And now his kids are doing the same thing. I want everyone to like, that's what I wake up with every single day. It's like that. And I want everyone to feel that, like at least once in their life. And then they'll understand that that's what it's all been about all along. Nothing else really matters.
Well, I'm excited to read your book. I know it's going to be crazy valuable, and I'm excited to, get more of that feeling and have my life designed around that. So thanks again, Brian. Seriously, super impactful. You are on my life. I really appreciate your time. As we're wrapping up, is there any way that our audience can support you? And what is the best way for our audience members to connect with you if they're trying to do so?
Yeah, I'd say they can shoot me a follow at Brian Luebben. It's just my name everywhere. If they're super interested in like kind of getting the step-by-step framework in writing, you can go to w2toworldtravel.com. I got a bunch of free stuff for you there. Besides that, you can just check out Action Academy podcast. I'd go listen to those episodes. We give our best stuff away for free. We got like 400 hours over there and growing. So check that out. Yeah, we got Pineda coming on tomorrow. So we got some heavy hitters and they're only growing. It only gets easier as time goes on. So this time next year, it's even easier for me to get like the Ed Miletts and the Lewis Howes of the world. So
yeah, love it. Elon Musk's and so on and so forth. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely, audience, check out the Action Academy, the podcast, as soon as possible today, right now. So thanks again, Brian. Really appreciate your time again. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It.
Thanks, guys.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.